In today's episode, we'll be talking about the horrific crime that happened to Marlen Ochoa-Lopez. At 9 months pregnant, Marlen was lured out to her attacker's home from a Facebook group for moms in need. Once she arrived to pick up baby clothes from this woman, Marlen was choked to death. After that, her attacker cut the baby out of her stomach so she could raise it as her own. Marlen Ochoa-Lopez was a 19-year-old woman living in Chicago. At the time our story takes place, Marlen had a 3-year-old son and was 9 months pregnant with her second child. Even though she was a teen mom, Marlen still managed to attend high school. She was determined to graduate. After Marlen got out of class on April 23, 2019, she had 2 things on her to-do list: pick up some things for her baby and pick up her son from daycare. But after leaving school that day, Marlen was never seen again. It didn't take long for Marlen to be reported missing. It was pretty obvious something happened because she hadn't picked up her son from daycare. I forgot to mention this earlier, but Marlen had a husband, Giovanni, who tried to immediately report her missing, but they told him to come back in 72 hours. I really hate how they do that because the hours following someone's disappearance are so essential. I understand that people run away sometimes, but I wish the cops would take these reports seriously from the beginning. So at 6 p.m. on the same day, a 911 call was made. It was from a 46-year-old woman named Clarissa Figueroa who said she just had a home birth, but her baby wasn't breathing. First responders rushed to the scene and found the baby in bad condition. A spokesperson said the baby was in obvious distress. He was basically blue. Paramedics called for backup as they began advanced life support. While their focus was obviously on the baby, the paramedics couldn't help but notice how normal Clarissa looked for someone who had just given birth. Wonder why? They asked her if she had any stomach pain, cramps, bleeding, or dizziness. Her reply? No. No? I mean, you just birthed a literal baby out of your... Well, we won't get into that, but a lot happens to the human body during and after birth. A lot of pain, distress, things shifting. You know, it's intense. But the paramedics brushed it off, although they still took her to the hospital just to be safe. When the baby arrived at the hospital, he was placed in the ICU and things weren't looking great. Because he wasn't able to breathe for so long, his brain wasn't functioning. So Clarissa set up a GoFundMe to raise $9,000 to help with her son's medical care. Everyone was really devastated for her. But now let's get back to Marlen. So the day after she disappeared, Giovanni was finally able to report his wife missing. A search began, but no one was able to find any solid evidence or leads that would suggest where Marlen was. About 2 weeks after the disappearance, one of Marlen's friends mentioned this Facebook group that Marlen was in called Help a Sister Out. It's a group for moms and expecting moms who post baby items that they're giving away or looking for. They also share tips and stories and stuff. A few weeks earlier, Marlen made a post in the group saying she was looking for items for her baby. She also mentioned how far along she was in the post. This is when Clarissa Figueroa connected with Marlen. She said she had a double stroller and some baby clothes that she'd love to give Marlen, so they took the convo to Messenger. They coordinated a meetup, which happened to be on April 23rd, the day she went missing. Once the detectives found out about this, they decided to go over to Clarissa's house to ask a few questions. A woman answered the door, but it wasn't Clarissa. It was her 24-year-old daughter, Desiree, who didn't really help the detectives much. But it wouldn't be long until the truth came out. So Marlen's car was actually found in the Figueroa's neighborhood. It had accumulated quite a few parking tickets too. This means Marlen definitely hadn't driven it around, presumably since she stopped by to pick up the baby items. Since the investigators couldn't catch Clarissa at her home, they paid her a visit at the hospital to chat. Clarissa claimed Marlen never visited her house on April 23rd, but she did say the teen mom had come over twice before to pick up things from the Facebook group. The detectives felt uneasy about their conversation with Clarissa, so they decided to run a DNA test on the baby. It wasn't a match for Clarissa, but it was, of course, a match for Marlen. There are probably a lot of questions and thoughts running through your head right now, so let me get you some more answers. Unfortunately, Marlen was found lifeless inside a trash can in the Figueroa's backyard. It was not a pretty sight. And keep in mind that this discovery came 4 weeks after Marlen went missing. There was an electrical cable tied around her neck and her body was pretty dismembered. That's when it became apparent that Marlen's baby was cut out of her womb prematurely. It all started to make sense, how the baby was blue when the paramedics arrived and how Clarissa showed no signs of recently giving birth. In Clarissa's house, detectives found red stains that someone clearly tried to clean with bleach. They also discovered pieces of burnt clothing. If Clarissa didn't already seem guilty enough, we come to find out she had had her tubes tied, so there was no way she was pregnant like she claimed to be. One day later, the police charged 3 people for the crime: Clarissa, her boyfriend Piotr, and her daughter Desiree. Clarissa and Desiree for first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and dismembering a body. Piotr for concealing a homicide and obstruction of justice. They all pleaded not guilty. But interestingly enough, all 3 defendants have a criminal background. Clarissa was charged with battery in 1998 and possession in 2008. Desiree was charged with assault in 2013 and theft in 2019. And Piotr was charged with public indecency in 2009, aggravated battery to a peace officer in 2012, and theft in 2019. Okay, so here's what the authorities have pieced together about what went down. Marlin did, in fact, stop by Clarissa's house to pick up a few things. She was invited inside and led to the couch. There, Desiree showed Marlin a photo album while Clarissa got ready to attack. From behind, Clarissa wrapped an electrical cable around Marlin's neck and choked her. A struggle ensued, but Clarissa jumped on top of Marlin and squeezed her neck for about 5 minutes. After Marlin took her last breath, Clarissa removed the baby from her stomach with a blade. I don't want to go into details, but I just know that this was so gruesome and violent. They hid her body with Piotr's help and then called 911 since the baby wasn't breathing. I still really can't wrap my head around the fact that Clarissa and Desiree performed such a horrific act and that they thought they'd get away with it. But why did Clarissa do it? About a year before the incident, Clarissa's 20-year-old son passed away. It's unclear if there's a direct correlation between this and her following actions, but I think there had to be. It's tragic that Clarissa lost her son, and she was probably overwhelmed by emotion. There was a huge gaping hole in her heart that she needed to fill, and in October of 2018, Clarissa announced that she was pregnant, which we now know was impossible because her tubes were tied. So that must mean that she had already come up with her plan. Pretend to be pregnant, post about it a lot, and then find an expecting mother to attack and steal her baby. And Clarissa was committed to this plan. She even posted an ultrasound picture on Facebook. And then she started making posts in the Help a Sister Out Facebook group. She shared a photo of a nursery with a crib, asking if anyone needed any of the items in the picture. And then she made another post asking, "Who's due in May? Where are the May mamas at?" She was looking for someone whose pregnancy timeline matched up with her fake one, so the fake birth and stolen baby would seem more believable. Marlin innocently commented that she was due in May, and that's how the two first connected. It's just so horrible. Marlin was genuinely trying to connect with other expecting moms and get a few free or cheap things for her baby. Little did she know this woman would rob her of her life and later, her babies. So once the discovery was made that the baby was Marlin and Giovanni's, the Lopez family immediately got involved at the hospital, visiting frequently and praying for a miracle to happen. Sadly, the baby, who they named Giovanni Jadiel Lopez, was still not showing any brain activity. The baby remained on life support for several weeks until the family made the tough decision to pull him off. He passed away on June 14th. I can't help but think what would have happened if Clarissa hadn't done this. Marlin and her baby would probably still be alive. It's just so completely unfair. And also, the hospital said they'd waive all of the bills for the Lopez family, but 1 month later, they were billed for over $300,000 in medical fees. That's just awful. This poor family is already going through so much after losing Marlin and her baby, and now they're having to deal with a huge pile of debt that shouldn't even be there because Marlin would have most likely had a safe and healthy birth if this crime hadn't happened. The family was told that if they didn't pay up, they'd be sent to collections. And then later, the hospital said that was an accident and they weren't allowed to make any additional comments to the public. So once the baby passed away, additional homicide charges were made against Clarissa and Desiree. But from all the research I've done, it seems as if all three defendants are still awaiting trial. It's now been about 3 years since the crime, and Marlin's family is frustrated by how slow this process is going. There were obviously delays with the lockdown and everything, but I don't see why they can't have the trial now. Marlin's dad also talked about how disrespected their family felt at the beginning of Marlin's case, and rightfully so. When she was first reported missing, the detectives held off on making any moves. They didn't give her case the focus it needed until much later, which Marlen's dad believes is partly due to the fact that they're immigrants. He said, "We came to this country to give a good life for my daughter. We just want justice for what they did for my daughter." Instead of just allowing him to mourn and be frustrated, a police spokesperson just had to say something. He said, once they got that break on May 7th, then things started going quickly. There was nothing to point us in that direction in the beginning. Remember, this is real life. This isn't 48 hours. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. While there's still no way to tell if the police really did hold back on their efforts due to Marlen's background, it's not like it hasn't happened in the past and continues to happen today. Even still, this should have never happened to Marlen, and it's unfortunate that her case wasn't taken seriously as soon as Giovanni contacted the cops. In 2021, the Lopez family hosted a huge drive for moms in need. They teamed up with church and community members to collect diapers, wipes, and food to give to struggling moms. Since Marlen was a young mom in need herself, they felt this was a way to honor her and give back to moms in similar situations. The local pastor said, "With much pride, we plant the seed of kindness, and we begin the step-off of the Marlen and Hadiel Lopez Memorial Project, which will be passing out diapers and wipes 3 times a year so that young mothers, or all mothers, can come to a safe place." Marlen went looking for something like every young mother to make ends meet, to get something free. But she ended up in a horrific fate. I am truly amazed by the victims' family members who do things like this. I mean, to experience such a tragic event as losing your wife and son, and then to go and make something positive out of the situation and to give back to the community, and that takes a lot of strength. I hope Marlen's family is able to heal from this and get justice soon. I just still can't believe the lengths Clarissa went through to just have a baby. I mean, why couldn't she just adopt or foster? Honestly, though, I don't think she deserved another kid based on the way she handled this situation. Well, everyone, that's all I have for now. Stay safe out there, and please let me know what case you'd like to see next on Killer Bites. Thank you for watching.